Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is the 7th episode of the 9-week Transition Blueprint series. For those of you who still might not know, there's a newsletter. Each week, I send information and resources on transitioning. Additionally, though, to get the link to download a PDF of the information covered in this series and to be entered into the giveaway, you have to sign up for and participate by answering a weekly question sent in the newsletter. There's a link in the show notes. Please go sign up. All right, now let's get on with the actual show. You ever have one of those days where it feels like everyone has something to say, but no one's really saying anything that matters? Maybe it's one of those meetings that everything seems to go in circles. Everyone's trying to sound important, but no one's actually moving the ball forward. Or you're scrolling social media and it's just noise. Post after post of people trying to prove how much they know, and they really don't. Or maybe you catch yourself doing it, filling that space with words because the silence feels like you're losing ground. And if we're being honest, our careers have conditioned us to believe that silence means we're slipping. That if you aren't the first to speak, the first to answer, the first to react, you're somehow falling behind. We're trained to move fast, decide fast, lead fast. But what if I told you the real advantage isn't speed? What if the next version of you, the version that's ready for life after the uniform, isn't built on being the first to fill the silence, but on knowing how to hold it? The ones who are the most successful, well, they aren't always the loudest in the room. They're the ones who know how to pause, how to let a moment breathe without rushing to fill it, how to make silence work for them instead of fearing it. Because that pause, it's not uncertainty, it's strategy. So if you've ever felt the itch to fill that space, if you've ever second-guessed yourself because you didn't have the perfect thing to say in the moment, today we're breaking down how learning to use that space, to own that pause, can set you apart in ways you might not expect. So with that, let's get into round 71 of the tactical transition tips. This time the topic is the power of strategic silence. For the close range group, those of you looking at your transition right away or you're less than a year out, embrace the pause before you react, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. For the medium range group, those of you looking at your transition in 5 years or so, schedule a silent strategy day, because clarity doesn't come from noise. It comes from reflection. And for the long range group, those of you just starting your careers, you've got at least a decade before your transition. Learn to sit with discomfort, because if you can face the quiet now, you won't fear the unknown later. Close range group, embrace the pause before you react. Let that one sit for a second. For those of you in this group, you're not just thinking about transition anymore. You're likely in it. It's here. It's real. And if I had to guess, you're probably already waking up some mornings thinking, all right, this is really happening. Maybe you've started updating that resume. You know, the one you promised yourself you'd get to months ago. Or maybe you've hit apply on a few jobs, only to wonder, is anybody even seeing this? Maybe you've even already sat across from someone in an interview. You felt the nerves sweat on your back, heard your own voice sounding not quite like yourself. I know that feeling. But let me tell you something. You're not the only one who feels like they have to fill every second of space in these moments. We've been wired to believe that momentum comes from moving fast, from being ready with the next thing to say, from showing how dialed in and how on it we are. However, the reality is, especially in these high stakes moments, the person who owns the pause, the person who can let that silence hang just a second longer than feels comfortable, that's the person who actually feels like they're in control. Look, I know how weird that sounds, because in our worlds, you don't pause. You fill the space, you lead, you move. But here's what's different about where you're headed to. You're stepping into rooms where the rules aren't the same. You're stepping into conversations where people aren't looking for the fastest voice in the room. They're looking for the one who's most composed. So let me ask you, when was the last time you let a moment breathe before you answered? Not just to buy time, but to show you're listening, not just waiting for your turn to talk. Because here's the thing, that pause, it signals something powerful. You're not flustered. You're not chasing approval. You're thinking. And when you do that, you actually flip the pressure back to them. Here's a real world example. You're in an interview and they hit you with the inevitable. Why should we hire someone with no corporate experience? Your instinct might be to jump right in. Start defending your resume, your experience. Start providing, I do belong. Because don't forget, you do belong there. But what if, just for a moment, you didn't? What if you paused, let the silence settle, and make them sit with their own question? That pause, it forces them to start thinking. And in that space, you stay in control. Now, don't get me wrong. That pause feels awkward the first few times you try it. You'll want to fill it. You'll feel the pull to prove yourself. But here's your challenge. Don't. Let it hang. Own that moment, because that's where your power is. So then you're asking yourself, how do I build this skill? Here's something you can start doing today. No interviews are required. Pick a normal, a generic conversation, maybe with a friend, your spouse, maybe even your kids. When they stop talking, don't jump in right away. Let there be a second, maybe even two. Pay attention to how it feels. It's going to feel weird at first, but that's good. That means you're building awareness. You're training that muscle. Then you can take that even further. Next time you're in a conversation where someone expects you to fill the gap, say you're in a meeting or you're on a phone call, practice taking one deep breath before you respond. I would recommend not to make it overt, but more figuratively. It might seem small, maybe even insignificant, but that micro pause, it gives your brain the space to sort your own thoughts. And the person on the other end, they'll feel that shift. They'll see that you're not just talking to hear your voice, that you're actually thinking. Next, think about controlling the tempo. For every interview, every networking call, every conversation from now on, you set the tempo. Because here's what happens if you don't. The other person drives the conversation, and you're just reacting. But when you own the pause, you show restraint, you show confidence, and you keep the perception of control. It's the difference between showing up needing something and showing up like you already belong there. And here's something I cannot say enough. People remember the ones who make them feel heard, not the ones who talk the most, not the ones who have the perfect script, but the ones who listen and ask the right questions. And when you pause, you give them a chance to reset so that they can hear what you say. Sponsorship for this podcast comes from Brothers in Arms USA. They're a veteran-owned and operated clothing and accessories brand that's 100% American-made. Every piece tells a story of brotherhood, respect, discipline, and honor, deeply inspired by those who serve, those who have served, and those who have paid the ultimate price serving our great country. Whether you're an outdoor enthusiast, a proud patriot, or simply somebody who values high-quality American craftsmanship, they've got something for you. Go check out brothersandarms.com, spelled out fully, brothersandarms.com. Use the promo code TRANSITION20 to get 20% off your purchase. Okay, something else you can start doing right away. In every conversation, commit to asking one follow-up question before you share your response. And don't do this because you're trying to win the conversation, but because you're building the habit of curiosity over performance. So when someone shares something about an experience, instead of saying, "Yeah, I've done that too," try this. "That's interesting. How did you guys handle," and then insert something from what they just mentioned. That one move, it actually does two things. Most important, it makes them feel important. In their eyes, it makes you someone worth talking to. Additionally, it also extends the conversation. Don't be in a rush to get through conversations. The next thing, know when to let them win. This is your mindset shift. And trust me, this one's going to feel counterintuitive at first. Not every conversation needs to end with you being the smartest person in the room. In fact, sometimes the smartest move, the most memorial move, is letting them win. Let them feel like they nailed it. Let them feel like they're the expert. Now, I'm sure there's some of you in the back screaming, "But what if what they're saying is total bullshit?" Well, if what they're saying really doesn't impact you, or if it does impact you, but you can maneuver around it, stealing a line from Mel Robbins, let them. Remember, and you might have heard me say this once or a million times, people remember how you make them feel, not how much you know. Humility doesn't mean you're playing small. It means you're playing the long game. And if you can do that, if you can sit with the silence, ask the deeper question, but if necessary, let them win the moment, you're going to stand out in all the right ways. So, to wrap up this section, this week, I challenge you, let the pause work for you. Practice it, own it, and watch how it changes the way people experience you. You're showing up with presence, with intention, and with leadership. Medium range group. Schedule a silent strategy day. Let me guess. You hear that, and your first thought is, "Yeah, right. I don't have time for that." And I hear you. You're still in the middle of it right now. And 5 years? Man, that feels like forever away. Like, why would you waste a day sitting in silence when you could be getting things done? Am I right? But here's the reality. 5 years is nothing. You and I both know how fast 5 years goes in these careers. 1 minute you're at full speed ahead, and the next, you're listening to someone's retirement speech. But now it creeps in. Now you're realizing, damn, that's going to be me sooner than I thought. And remember, the ones who transitioned well didn't wait until the last year to start thinking about it. They didn't wait until the retirement paperwork was submitted. They started early with purpose and intention. And you know how they did it. They learned to shut off the noise before life forced them to. They built in time to think, not just react. That's what a silent strategy day is all about. Silence is a weapon, not a waste. I know. Sitting in silence probably sounds like the opposite of productivity, especially since you've got real work to do and shifts to fill. And let me guess, if you don't do it, who will? Again, am I right? But here's what I want you to think about. If you don't make time to step back and actually think about your future, life's going to make that decision for you. And trust me, life doesn't care about your timing. It doesn't wait for you to feel ready. So, what if you stopped waiting until life forced your hand? What if you scheduled the space now while you're still in control? That's what this is. A day. No distractions, no meetings, no, I'll check my email real quick. Just you and the space to think bigger than today's problems. So then, what does this day look like? I'll paint the picture for you. You grab a notebook. You open up a blank document on your laptop. You block the day off on your calendar. Turn off your phone. No social media, no email. You sit, you breathe, you think. And before you roll your eyes at how cliche that sounds, hear me out. You don't need a fancy retreat or a weekend getaway. You just need to be able to have clarity. And clarity comes when you stop reacting and start reflecting. So then, once you're all settled in, here's how you're going to kick off that day. Close your eyes. No, really, close your eyes. Picture yourself 6 months into your life after this job. Where are you? What are you doing? Who are you with? What's filling your days with energy, not obligation? It's a simple exercise, but it's actually quite powerful. Because if you can't see it, how can you build it? This vision, though, it's not about dreaming some unrealistic fantasy. It's about creating a mental blueprint of what success feels like. And then you put your efforts towards jobs that actually fit you. Next, after you've got this picture in your head, grab that notebook, your laptop, maybe even use a whiteboard. Draw 2 columns, one for personal, one for professional. And I want you to fill them with stuff that actually matters to you. Some examples for, say, the personal side. You want to spend more time with your family. You're concerned about your overall health, freedom to travel. Maybe you want to be able to give back. Under the professional side, growth opportunities, flexible work schedule, meaningful work, working with people you respect. When you lay it all out like that, you'll start seeing what in the columns intersect, how they complement and how they compete. Because if the next career you're chasing only fills, say, the professional side and leaves your personal life empty, that's not success. That's just burnout in a different uniform. Are you tired of coffee that spikes your energy, then crashes you? Trident Coffee is different. Their cold brew is infused with MCT oil, lion's mane, and reishi mushrooms, which gives you steady energy, sharp focus, and brain-boosting benefits without the jitters. Plus, electrolytes fuel your recovery. They roast their beans to be optimized for cold brew, which means all their coffees taste amazing, not bitter. Brewed hot, over ice, or in your smoothie, Trident Coffee works however you do. Get yours at tridentcoffee.com and use the code TDP15 for 15% off. All right, the next step in this process, call out what you won't let go. I want you to make another list. This one's called the stuff I can't let go of. And you know what I'm talking about. The tasks you hold on to like no one else can do them. The stuff you tell yourself, I have to do it or it won't get done right. And be honest, we all do this. And not just with stuff at work, but at home also. So write them down. And for each one, ask yourself, why are you holding on to it? Is it fear? Is it control? Is it your pride? Now, here's the hard truth. If you don't start letting go of some of that stuff now, you're going to bottleneck yourself and your team. And your team aren't just the people you work with. Leadership isn't about doing it all. It's about building up others to take it on. And if you can't practice that now, transition's going to hit you like a freight train. Next, you really need to be honest with yourself. What are you spending time on right now that's just noise? Attending meetings that don't really need you. Taking on projects that drain you but add no value. Those habits that eat your energy but don't move you forward. Make that list. Cross off what no longer serves you. Because activity isn't the same as progress. And the longer you let that noise fill your schedule, the less room you have for what actually matters. Building that life that you want next. Now, before you wrap up this strategy day, I want you to pick one thing you've been putting off. That thing that keeps popping into your mind, but you keep pushing it down because, not now, I'm too busy. Maybe it's signing up for that class that you know you need. Maybe it's reaching out to an old friend or a colleague that you've lost contact with. Maybe it's telling your boss, hey, I'm ready to start grooming my replacement. Whatever it is for you, pick one, write it down, and commit to doing it this week. Because reflection without action is just mental clutter. Progress happens when you move. And what does all this build in you? You're not just preparing for that someday. You're building the muscle memory that makes you better at your job right now. The people who thrive after these careers aren't the ones who scramble in the last 6 months. They're the ones who learn to think strategically long before they needed to. They're the ones who created space to breathe and let that breathing room turn into clarity. You can be that person, and you don't have to wait for the perfect time. You just have to start. So in closing this section, here's my challenge for you. Start with, say, twice a year, but progress to doing this monthly as you get closer to your transition. Pull out your calendar, find one day, block it off, give it priority, make it your silent strategy day. Because your future isn't just something you fall into. It's something you build, one clear decision at a time. Long range group. Learn to sit with discomfort. You're probably wondering if this part even applies to you. I mean, let's be real. You're still new to the game. You're probably not thinking about life after service yet. And honestly, you shouldn't be. Well, not fully anyway. You should be focused on building your professional career and getting all the experience you can. But here's the thing. Too many of us wait too long to start building the one thing that's going to make everything after this easier. And it's not a certification. It's not a degree. It's not a promotion. It's the ability to sit still and let things feel uncomfortable without trying to escape it. Sounds kind of soft, right? Sounds like something you can deal with later. Well, stick with me for a second. This one is probably one of the most overlooked skills you can build. Why this matters right now? Look, these careers are fast-paced worlds. Calls come in, problems show up, people need answers. You're trained to move, to solve the problem, to react to the situation. And that's what makes you good at what you do right now. But here's what happens when that pace eventually stops. And it will stop someday. You'll sit there staring at the quiet, and you'll feel lost. Trust me, I've talked to enough veterans and first responders now to tell you the noise is what most people miss the most when they leave. The constant purpose, the adrenaline, the next mission that's always there waiting for us. When all that goes away, that's when the real work starts. And the people who handle that moment the best are the ones who started practicing stillness long before they needed it. So how do you train that? It's not flashy. No one's going to give you an award for it. There's no scoreboard. But if you can build this habit now, you'll be miles ahead of most people when your transition eventually comes. Start by practicing doing nothing on purpose. Yes, that might sound ridiculous. Who's got time to do nothing? And besides that, what does that even mean? What it means is sitting in silence with no distractions, no phone, no TV, no music, no social media, just you sitting, breathing, letting your mind wander. Sounds kind of simple, right? Try it for 5 minutes and tell me how long it takes before you feel that urge to grab your phone. But here's what I want you to really understand. That urge to grab your phone, that's discomfort showing up. And learning to stay in that discomfort without needing to fill it, that's the skill you want to build. Okay, so now that you're in this doing nothing, track your distraction habits. Start noticing how often you reach for distractions during your day. How often do you pull out your phone for no reason? How often do you check your email even though you're already caught up? How often do you start working on something just to avoid sitting still? Spend 1 week tracking those moments. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just jot it down on your phone or a notebook, but every time you catch yourself, write it down. Awareness is step 1. You can't fix what you don't see. And you might be surprised how much of your day is filled with avoiding discomfort. Next, I want you to start a thoughts, fears, and questions journal. Again, you can use your phone, you can use a notebook. What would actually be best is to start doing a journal. Regardless, it's nothing fancy. Then, just one thought, one fear, or one question every single day. These don't have to be deep. They don't have to be profound. They just have to be honest, and they have to be about you. Because the more you practice writing them out and making them, I'll put it in air quotes, real, the more you train yourself to face them head on. Most people run from their own thoughts. They avoid the hard questions. They fill the space with noise so they don't have to deal with what's really going on inside. But you can start building the habit of facing it now so that when life does get loud, you've already built the muscle to handle the quiet. What is the grind? It's not just a routine, but the decision we make to wake up, give everything we've got, then find a way to go further. Grind, spelt GRND, is more than a brand. It's a movement, an emotion we all feel connected to as we work daily to pursue our goals and support each other. Founded by a former Army Ranger, Grind Activewear has a clear mission to give 100% and then some more in sport, fitness, and in life. Functional, high-quality performance wear that's rooted in American culture because you demand gear that outworks the rest. Whether you're on the field, in the gym, or building your own lane, Grind is for those who refuse to settle. Go check out the Grind Collective at grndcollective.com and tap into something bigger than clothing. And while you're there, use the promo code TRANSITION15 to get 15% off your purchase. You're likely already on the grind. Maybe you just don't realize it yet, but the grind continues. All right, now that I got you inside yourself, all in your feels, I want you to level up your listening skills. Start practicing active listening. I talked earlier about the importance of the pause. However, pausing does no good if you're not truly listening. And I'm not talking about just nodding your head while somebody talks. I'm talking about fully listening. No interrupting, no jumping in with your story, not thinking about what you're going to say next. Just listening. Actually, as the new guy, you should be more about listening and less about talking in many situations already. Take this time to master listening. Then you can move on to mastering the pause. But trust me, this skill pays off everywhere. On the job, at home, and in your future career. The last piece of this self-puzzle is a monthly reflection. Find 10 minutes once a month and ask yourself one question. Who am I becoming based on the choices I made this month? Not what did I do, not what did I accomplish, but who am I becoming? Am I becoming more patient, more disciplined? Or am I becoming more reactive, more disconnected? And be honest with yourself, because the person you're becoming today, that's the person who's going to show up on the other side of your career. And if you wait until the end to figure that out, you're already behind. But if you start now, you're building the foundation for a transition that doesn't feel like you're losing yourself. It feels like leveling up to the next version of you. So here's where I'll leave you. Learn to sit with the quiet. Learn to face the discomfort. Because if you can hold the space now while the world is still moving fast, you'll be ready when life slows down. And remember, the funny thing about quiet and the stillness, it has a way of showing up when you least expect it. And if you listen closely, you might just hear it starting to whisper to you, telling you that the next chapter isn't as far off as you think. So start now. Practice the pause, because on the other side of the noise is where you'll find your edge, the power of strategic silence. Thank you for listening to or watching the episode. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out either on social media or send me an email. All the links are in the show notes, and I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you're not already, please follow the podcast on whatever platforms you get your podcasts. You can also subscribe on YouTube. And if you would, please leave a rating. The more ratings the podcast gets, the more the podcast gets recommended to people. Another ask, please share the podcast with anyone you think could benefit from and enjoy it. And last, don't forget to sign up for the newsletter.